Ujunwa had always been the quiet one in the house, the girl who stayed up late drawing buildings and reading by candlelight when everyone else was asleep. Her dream was clear: to become an architect. She worked hard through school, topped her class, and when university applications came around, she carefully filled out the form for photo and chose architecture. She believed her time had come. She handed the completed documents to her mother, Mama Josephine, who promised to submit them. But just 2 days later, Ujunwa noticed something odd. Her younger sister Ujunwa, who hadn't even talked about university before, suddenly had brand new textbooks and was always whispering on the phone with their mother. Ujunwa's heart grew heavy. Out of confusion, she asked Ujunwa directly, "Did you apply to photo too?" Ujunwa froze, unsure of what to say. Before she could answer, their mother stepped in sharply. "Stay out of your sister's business." The tone silenced Ujunwa, but it didn't calm the storm rising inside her. She felt something wasn't right. That night, Ujunwa couldn't sleep. She lay on her thin mattress, staring at the ceiling, thinking about her dream, her years of hard work, and the strange way her mother and sister were behaving. Something felt stolen. Her instincts told her that what was supposed to be hers, her future, might have been taken without her knowing. The house was quiet, but her mind wasn't. She had trusted her mother with her future, but now her heart was filled with fear. Her dream, so close she could almost touch it, suddenly felt like it was slipping through her fingers, and the people she loved the most might be the ones letting it go. Ujunwa didn't have proof yet, but in her soul, she knew something had gone terribly wrong. Days turned into weeks, and the tension in the house grew thicker. Ujunwa tried to stay calm, holding on to hope, waiting for any word from the university. Then one afternoon, as she swept the front yard, a delivery man arrived with a large brown envelope. She saw the bold photo logo and her name handwritten in the corner. Her heart skipped. She reached out to take it, but Mama snatched it from her hands. "I'll check it first," Mama said, her voice calm but firm. "Just in case it's a mistake." Ujunwa blinked in confusion. "A mistake? But don't worry about it," Mama added, already walking away. That night, Ujunwa waited, pretending to sleep but listening carefully. Mama never mentioned the envelope. No one said a word about it. The next morning, Ujunwa checked every corner of the house. The table, the drawers, even the kitchen shelf. The envelope was gone. A strange chill filled her chest. Her hands trembled. Later that day, while heading to the backyard, she heard voices behind the kitchen door. Mama was whispering to Ujunwa, "Don't tell anyone it came in your sister's name. Just act confident when you get there. They won't question it." Ujunwa stood frozen, her ears ringing. It hit her all at once. Her mother had taken her admission letter and given it to Ujunwa. She had used Ujunwa's grades, her effort, her future, and handed it to someone else. Her younger sister, her own blood. She backed away, silent, breathless. The betrayal stung deeper than anything she'd ever felt. She hadn't just lost a letter. She had lost her trust, her chance, and the belief that her family was behind her. In that moment, Ujunwa wasn't just heartbroken. She was awake. Ujunwa couldn't stay quiet anymore. Her chest was tight, her hands shaking as she walked up to her mother. The truth was out, and she needed answers. "Mama," she said, voice low but firm, "you used my name, my WAEC results, my grades. You gave them to Ujunwa, didn't you?" Mama didn't flinch. Her face stayed cold. "Yes, I did. And I'd do it again." Ujunwa's eyes widened. "Why?" "It was my dream." "You're too soft," Mama replied sharply. "Architecture isn't for quiet girls. Ujunwa has more presence. She knows how to stand tall. She'll make this family proud." Ujunwa's throat tightened. "But I worked for it. I earned that admission." Mama shook her head. "Dreams don't put food on the table. You can stay here and help with the tailoring shop. That's what girls like you do." Ujunwa stood there, stunned. The person who was supposed to believe in her, who watched her grow up drawing buildings and sketching floor plans, had never truly seen her. That night, Ujunwa lay on her bed, staring at the ceiling in silence. Tears rolled down her face, not from weakness, but from the deep pain of being erased. She wasn't just ignored, she was replaced, her future stolen, her effort dismissed like it meant nothing. But in that deep ache, something shifted. A quiet flame lit inside her. It wasn't anger. It wasn't revenge. It was a decision, a choice to no longer wait for permission or validation, or love that came with conditions. Her heart still hurt. Her eyes were still wet, but her mind was clear. If no one would fight for her dream, she would fight for it herself. One quiet afternoon, about a week after the confrontation, Olana was alone at home folding clothes when the landline phone rang. She almost didn't pick it up, thinking it was one of those usual wrong numbers. But something told her to answer. "Good afternoon. This is the admissions office from Fudo," the voice said. "We're calling to confirm that Miss Olana Nwachukwu will be attending orientation next Monday." Her breath caught. For a moment, she couldn't speak. Yes, I will," she finally managed to say. "Perfect. Please bring your original documents. Orientation starts at 8 a.m. sharp," the caller added, then hung up. Olana stood there frozen, phone still pressed to her ear. Her hands started shaking. Her name was still in the system. The university had her on record. Even after everything her mother tried to do, the school had recognized the real applicant, her. She placed the phone down slowly, her heart racing. No screaming, no jumping, just quiet disbelief. She didn't cry. She didn't shout. She walked into her small room, pulled out an old school bag, and began to pack. Her documents, her ID, her certificates, everything she had worked for. She folded 2 dresses, added a notebook, and carefully wrapped a worn photo of her father, the only one who ever truly believed in her. She didn't tell her mother. She didn't tell Adaora. She had no words left for them. Instead, she stood in front of her father's picture, whispered, "Daddy, they tried to stop me, but I'm still going," and placed the photo inside her bag like a promise. There were no goodbyes, no fights, only quiet courage, and one determined step toward the life that almost got stolen. Olana arrived at the Fudo campus just after sunrise. She held one worn travel bag in one hand and a transparent plastic file with her documents in the other. Her shoes were dusty from the journey. She didn't have new clothes or anyone waiting to show her around. Still, her steps were steady. The campus buzzed with new students and parents everywhere. She followed the signs to the registration hall, unsure of what to expect. As she joined the line, her eyes suddenly caught a familiar face, Adaora. Her younger sister stood confidently in line, dressed in trendy clothes, makeup flawless, laughing beside another girl. She looked like she belonged there. Their eyes met. Adaora froze. Her smile vanished. What are you doing here?" she asked, voice low, eyes wide. Olana didn't blink. She stepped forward calmly and pulled out her ID from her file. "Finishing what I started," she said quietly. A staff member who overheard glanced at both girls, confused. "Are you two related?" "We're sisters," Adaora replied quickly, trying to stay composed. "Same surname, Nwachukwu," the staff member said, looking at the list. "But only one admission here." Olana raised her head. "Yes," she said, "and it's mine." Adaora turned pale, gripping her handbag tighter. For the first time, she had no words. The air around them shifted. Everyone nearby went quiet. Olana didn't need to raise her voice or prove anything else. She had come with the truth. Her name was on the list, her documents were real, and her place was earned. And at that moment, she knew she wasn't just here to study. She was here to take back what was hers. At the long registration table, students handed over their documents one by one. Olana waited quietly for her turn. When she stepped forward and gave her file to the officer, Adaora quickly approached the same table with her own documents. The officer looked at both of them, eyebrows raised. Same surname, same parents, but 2 girls claiming the same slot, he asked, confused. Adaora opened her mouth to speak but only managed a nervous smile. "There must be a mistake." Olana didn't hesitate. She stepped forward calmly and said, "There's no mistake. My mother submitted my results under my sister's name. But the ID, the transcripts, the test scores, they're all mine. You can check everything." The officer glanced at her, then back at the documents. The room fell silent. Even the students behind them stopped to listen. The officer took his time. He looked at every paper. He matched names, scores, photos, and dates. Finally, he set the documents down. "Only one name was officially admitted," he said. Olana Nwachukwu. Edaora froze. Her face went pale. She lowered her eyes to the floor, unable to speak. Olana stood still, heart pounding, but her face calm. For the first time in weeks, someone saw the truth. Her truth. The officer cleared his throat and turned to Edaora. You'll need to reapply through the proper channels. You can't use someone else's details. Please step aside. Olana picked up her file and walked into orientation. She didn't look back. She didn't smile. But her eyes were full. She was no longer the girl waiting to be chosen. She had chosen herself. Olana had earned her place, but campus life wasn't easy. She walked alone to classes, ate alone in the cafeteria, and spent nights in the library while others laughed in groups. Edaora completely ignored her, pretending she didn't exist. The sister who once shared her room now wouldn't share a glance. One evening, Olana's phone buzzed with a message from her mother. It read, "You will regret embarrassing this family." She stared at the message, then deleted it without replying. She had nothing to prove to them anymore. Instead, she poured her energy into her studies. She stayed up late sketching building plans, learning new software, and reading architecture books. While others partied, she practiced. She joined the campus architectural society and began entering local design competitions. Some she lost, but some she won. Slowly, her name began to spread among lecturers and classmates. By her third year, one of her classroom projects was selected to be part of a real faculty construction model. It was a simple community library, but it carried her name and her vision. She still didn't speak much. She didn't try to win anyone over, but people started noticing her. Not for her looks, her clothes, or her voice, but for her work. In her final year, she got an offer to intern at a well-known architecture firm in Abuja. It was a dream opportunity, one most students only hoped for. She accepted quietly, packed her bags, and boarded the bus alone. She never chased attention, but her results demanded it. She never shouted for respect, but her work earned it. She had been pushed aside, but she built her place from scratch. She may have walked in alone, but now people were watching her rise. Back in Enugu, the house no longer felt proud. Edaora, after being asked to leave Futo, tried applying to other schools, but nothing worked out. Each rejection made her angrier. She walked around the house complaining, telling anyone who listened that Olana had stolen what was meant for her. But whispers in the neighborhood had started. People noticed how quiet Mama Josephine had become at the market. The woman who once bragged loudly about Edaora's admission now avoided eye contact. Customers no longer smiled at her the same way. Some asked gentle questions. Others just stared. A few brave relatives came to visit and asked directly, "We heard Olana is in Abuja, doing well. What happened?" Mama only said, "She went her own way." But the truth was spreading. One evening, while Mama sat outside peeling yams, a neighbor walked by holding a magazine. She paused and held it up. "See page 12, she said. "Your daughter, Olana. She helped design a school for flood victims. They wrote about her." Mama took the magazine without a word. Later that night, when the house was quiet, she flipped through the pages. And there it was, Olana's name next to a photo of the school she had helped design. Her daughter's face, calm and proud. Tears welled in Mama's eyes. She went into the back room and pulled out a dusty box. Inside was Olana's old drawing book, the one filled with childhood sketches of houses, schools, and dreams. She sat on the floor, opened the book, and turned each page slowly. She remembered how Olana used to show her those drawings with a smile, waiting for praise that never came. Mama held the book to her chest, and for the first time in years, she cried. For years passed, and the day Olana had dreamed of finally arrived. She stood tall on the stage, wearing her graduation gown, the golden sash of excellence around her shoulders. Her name was called not just as a graduate but as the best graduating student in architecture. The applause filled the auditorium, but her mind was calm. She had worked for this. Every night of study, every sketch, every lonely moment had led to this stage. Camera flashes lit up the hall as the dean stepped up to the microphone. "This young woman," he said, voice strong, "showed us what perseverance means." She rose, even when her own blood tried to hold her down. There was a pause, and then the entire hall stood, clapping louder. Students, lecturers, strangers, all on their feet. Alana smiled. Not a wide, showy smile. A soft, peaceful one. She felt no need to prove anything now. She had already done that. As she scanned the crowd, her eyes caught a familiar face in the back row. It was Mama Josephine. She sat quietly, dressed simply. No makeup, no bright colors, no loud words. She wasn't surrounded by friends or relatives. She hadn't come to take credit or speak loudly on behalf of her daughter. She had come just to watch. Olana's eyes softened. For the first time in years, she didn't feel anger or pain when she saw her mother. She felt something else, understanding. Because today, her mother had no choice but to see the daughter she tried to hide. The world had already noticed Olana. Now her mother finally did too. After the ceremony, as the crowd slowly cleared and students gathered for photos, Olana walked alone toward the exit. Her certificate was in her hand, her heart full but quiet. Then she saw Mama Josephine standing near the corner of the hall, not moving, just watching. Their eyes met. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Mama stepped forward, slowly, as if unsure she had the right. She stopped just in front of Olana and said softly, "I was wrong." Her voice cracked. "I thought protecting you meant choosing someone else. But you didn't need protection. You needed someone to believe in you." Olana didn't reply at once. She looked at her mother, the same woman who once told her to stay and sew clothes, the woman who gave her future to another child. "I needed you to stand by me," Olana finally said. "But I learned to stand on my own." Mama's eyes filled with tears. "I'm proud of you," she whispered. "Not because you proved me wrong, but because you proved yourself right." Olana nodded slowly. The pain was still there, but it didn't control her anymore. "Thank you, Mama," she said quietly. "But now I choose what happens next." She took a step back, then turned and walked away, not out of bitterness, not to punish, but because she no longer needed permission. She wasn't just someone's daughter anymore. She was Olana Nwachukwu, the name they tried to silence. And now that name was written in places no one could erase.